Hello, this is Frida Liu, and if you've been following the Shift Asia In-Depth with CelcomDigi series, you'll know about their sustainability journey to redefine its role in the global landscape with its trust of advancing and inspiring society, supported by its 4 pillars, namely inclusive and safe digital access, sustainable value chain, governance and performance culture, and environmental impact and action. We've covered the first 3 pillars. Today, we'll discuss the 4th pillar, which is environmental impact and action. Philip Ling, Head of Sustainability for CelcomDigi, is back to expand on this. And here you are focused on both decarbonizing CelcomDigi's operations through a range of modernization of your business and putting in place a clear pathway to achieving a net zero by 2050 in alignment to the Science-Based Targets Initiative. So CelcomDigi is looking at this through several areas, namely emissions reduction and clean energy, waste management, disaster response, and tech-enabled solutions. Can you share a little bit more?
Yeah. So the mobile industry is extremely interesting in a sense that we are not a huge emitter compared to other industries. Globally, the mobile industries only emit around 0.3% of global emissions. But its ability to enable other industries with smart technologies, smart agriculture, smart logistics, all sorts, right? There is a huge opportunity there. Right, and I think that's where we see our role in this climate journey. So, on one sense, you're right. We have to look at the reduction of our own climate emissions, carbon emissions, and of course, as data grows, as consumer demands more data, as the world moves towards machine learning, AI, IoT, definitely there is more requirement for energy consumption.
Right.
But the wonderful thing about more technology is that it can decouple data growth with the growth of energy consumption. This is where renewables come in. This is where you look at using more cloud services. This is where you look at doing more efficiency within your networks, right? And those are some things that we've done. For example, a lot of our network today goes to sleep in the odd hours or wee hours in the morning, right? When no one is using, it goes to sleep just like an elevator, right? It wakes up when people wake up. So even with 5G coming to the picture, 5G is even designed in the sense that different components can go to sleep at different timing, right? So we do expect a lot more efficiency in the future. But what truly excites us are all the enablement that we can do for other industries, whether you're talking about the oil and gas sector, logistics sector, transport sector, or building sector. These are the huge sectors today in the climate journey that needs to look for solutions in the tech world. And I think that's where we pivot and we meet them in the middle.
Right. Okay. Now, can you elaborate on plans to increase transparency throughout the supply chain, particularly regarding the environmental and social impacts of production processes?
Yes. So again, we've done in the environmental reporting world, there's something called a Scope 1 to Scope 3. So we've done our Scope 1 and Scope 2 reporting quite vigorously. These are our electricity usage, our purchase diesel, as well as our use of fuel. And again, this process, we use an assurance process, and we use a robust way to collect the data. Now, Scope 3 is where the huge challenge is. So Scope 3, there are various categories along that. The things that you purchase, the capital expenditure, your operation expenditure, your supply chain, your customers, the use of mobile. So again, as we go down that journey, so we are now doing a baselining. From there, it will guide us on where do you start. How do you start tackling different things? And it's interesting again because globally there is a lot of resources out there. GRI, CDP, TCFD, and SASB. And even for the mobile industry, GSMA has a sector-specific guidance when it comes to climate change for the mobile industry. So that's where we look at a lot of opportunities for us to learn and to grow in this journey.
Right. And in that space, the GSMA, this is where, I guess, worldwide, everybody aspires to be on that same page.
Yes.
They set the pace for that, right? What initiatives are you undertaking to responsibly manage electronic waste, given the rapid turnover of devices and infrastructure components? Everybody wants a new phone.
Yes. Yes. So CelcomDigi is now going through a network integration and consolidation as part of the merger process. So through it, we are, again, now we have the widest network, but we also hope to build the strongest in the future. So as we consolidate, it is part of that process and DNA. How do you reuse a lot of these equipments? How do you, when you retire assets, what can they be used for? And if they can't be, what's the proper way to recycle e-waste? So that is transparent in our report every year. These are the things that we are recycling, and these are the things that we are doing as e-waste, right? When it comes to devices also, now we are putting in more commercial plans or more customer plans that allows you to hold your devices longer. Right. So again, it's installment plans, it's discounts and all those. But the idea is that having consumers understand that devices, as they get more and more, from your watch wearables to your smartphones and all those things, it's important for you to understand that these are also e-waste in the future. And then we also provide opportunities where they can choose to recycle or they can choose to sell it for second-hand market, right? So putting those things in play builds that ecosystem for a more sustainable society.
All right. Are there plans to integrate renewable energy sources into operations and infrastructure to reduce the carbon footprint?
Yes. So we've started the journey. I think to now, more than 90 sites are all using renewables. Our HQs has renewables and all those. In fact, we've also introduced last year EV charging at all our HQs, right? So as we also see more and more employees going on that journey towards electric vehicles, but it's not just solar. Sometimes it's also the battery technology, right? And that's also something we are investing in. We are looking with partners for solutions. How do you ensure that the renewable energy that you are capturing lasts longer? How do you make it more efficient, less loss in that process? So there is a lot of opportunities in renewable. Again, we do see the cost coming down. It makes more sense to either purchase it from the national grid, or to work with partners to look at different renewable energy proposals in the future. So as we see the change in the market forces, mechanisms, we also see a lot of opportunities. So sometimes it's being the first mover, sometimes it's waiting for the best opportunities out there. That's business justification for you to pivot to this. And in that journey, it's also important to, again, bring your customers along, bring your business partners along. Tell them, this is why we're doing this. This is where we need your support for us to move on this journey.
And it's so important, right? I mean, when you make this transition, they should know why you're doing this, and and how we can collaboratively work together. What about circular economy principles such as refurbishing? And I know you talk a little bit about that, refurbishing or recycling all equipment to minimize waste and resource consumption. So that's already in the pipeline. You want to elaborate further a little bit more?
I think one of the big things we are seeing is that as we modernize the network, right, data centers are getting more and more efficient. More things are going to the cloud. So sometimes it goes back to strategic planning. Where do you see your business moving in the future? Are there more ways of building more efficient data centers? Do they need to be all located in Klang Valley? If it's cloud services, what are the things that you can put into place? So I think the idea is sometimes we call almost environmental by design. That when you plan out your architecture, how do you plan it in a sense? There's various layers. One, of course, we call it a defensible architecture. This is when you look at cybersecurity. But one, we're also looking at energy efficiency as an architecture. So getting the right people into the same room, looking at all the different ambitions and balancing out, I think that's extremely important. Even working with the smartphone developers, the suppliers and partners, having those conversations beyond commercial. It's extremely important.
Yeah, and then you were saying like planning for the future. I mean, as much as possible, as much as we know, right? I mean, that's I guess if we get more people working together, we have a better idea and to get it right. Okay, in light of our climate change risk, right? What strategies are being adopted to enhance the resilience of your networks and infrastructure against extreme weather events and other environmental hazards? I think we're generally quite fortunate here in Malaysia, but yeah.
So in that sense, I think when it comes to a lot of environmental risk, it is not localized, right? And that's where you need a lot of players in place. But just on one point back, there's a lot of industries or corporates in Malaysia today who's jumped on the Science-Based Targets Initiative. There's a lot of corporates who are picking up, adopting the task force for climate financial disclosures, TCFD recommendations, right? So all these standards allow you to understand the risk scenarios, not just for your company, but also for your operations, marketplace, and for the country, you know.
Right.
So it's important for a lot of these players to actually come together to look at, hey, that's equal risk when the flood happens in this area. It's not only my tower goes down, the electrical substation goes down, and various services go down. You know? Is there a way to collaborate so that the response time is faster? So for CelcomDigi, there's two things that we are actively doing in this space. One is, of course, we are raising a lot of our towers now.
Okay.
So based on the flood level waters that we know, so raise it in the sense, put in more deployment strategy, redundancy, How do you get spare equipment in? Do you go in by boat? Do you go in by road? And what are the options available? So those some of business continuity planning is doing that. The other part is also community, because at the end of the day, mobile, especially when it comes to disaster, is a very crucial tool to stay safe, right? So we are putting up a lot of Wi-Fi towers, even in relief centers. We've worked with Malaysian Relief Agency to not only provide response and relief in terms of food and daily essentials, but especially looking at things related to the smartphone, right? Charging stations, solar, and different things that we are putting in to enable people to still have connectivity during those times.
Okay. And what you mentioned this about what are some of the collaborative efforts of partnerships between telcos, government agencies, and NGOs to promote sustainability within the telecommunications industry? Who else are you working with?
CelcomDigi is part of the steering committee for the CEO Action Network. We call it CAN. Within the CEO Action Network, there are more than 50 over corporates. There's a lot of active discussions on all ESG matters. There's a lot of peer-to-peer sharing of experiences and learning from one another. There's a lot of opportunities to also advocate policies together. Because I think sometimes the private sector and the public sector needs to be able to signal to one another. Now, this is what's important to me. This is where we want to go. And we also hope that the government continues to signal to the private sector, this is where the policies go and this is how you support. So that platforms allows that. So within that steering committee, our CEO actually works with other CEOs in that steering committee. We also work closely with Climate Governance Malaysia, which is the Malaysian chapter of the World Economic Forum. So again, it also looks at things beyond the country, and again, how Malaysia, as part of this global player, looks at a lot of opportunities and risks in the climate space, right? And then, of course, beyond it, with sustainability, there's a lot of partnerships out there. And sometimes it's finding that niche way where you can work with different partners. So, example, we partner with the Royal Malaysian Police as a strategic partner for scams, as we said earlier. So for climate, we have specific partners. For supply chain, we also look at specific partners. Governance, we work with Speaky. So building that partnership allows the company to not only thrive on its own, but you leverage on one another where it's necessary to bring this ESG ambition to reality.
Right, and it's not one cannot do it on its own. One has to work with everybody. Thank you so much. Thank you, Philip. And for those of you who have missed out on past episodes of the Shift Asia, do that. This is Shift Asia in-depth CelcomDigi series, so you can look at all the 4 pillars we've discussed in depth, in line with the thrust of advancing and inspiring society.